Let's take a look then at how we might segment markets in order to achieve strategic advantage as we arrange our organization. Market segments, as you know from your study of marketing, essentially deal with groups of customers who have similar needs that are different from the customer needs in other parts of the market. So we're trying to differentiate the groups of customers who might be of interest to us particularly. And we also find that where these customer groups are relatively narrow, such markets might be referred to as niches because they're not totally exactly what we're looking for. So not all segments are attractive or viable market opportunities. And so as we begin to segment, we have to make sure that we evaluate properly what it is that we're looking at. So customer needs then vary for a variety of reasons, and we might focus on customer needs that are highly distinctive as one means of building a long-term segment strategy. Or alternatively, we might look at specialization within a market segment, and this can be an important basis for a successful niche strategy. Some of the bases that we might use for segmenting markets then begin within the left-hand column, as you can see here, the type of factor. And we might be interested in the characteristics of the people or the organizations that we're serving. We might want to look at the purchase decisions or the use situations. Or we might look at the user's needs and preferences for a product of certain characteristics. And in the middle column, you can see these factors applied then to consumer markets. And in the far right column, you can see those factors applied to industrial organizational markets. And logically then starting with the characteristics of people, and in consumer markets, we might look at age, gender, ethnicity, income, family size. So these are fairly straightforward and uncomplicated elements of segmentation. And their corollaries might be in industrial markets, the industry within which we're working, the location, the size of the companies that we're looking at, the technologies that they use. If we move on to look at purchase situations, for consumer markets, we might look at the size of the purchase. Do they buy one at a time, or do they buy 144 at a time? Where are we in terms of brand loyalty? Are we really trying to sell our product to these customers for the first time, or are they returning customers? We might want to look at what the purpose of the use is of the product that we're selling. Is it a product that is consumable, or is it something that is consumed over a longer period of time? If we look at industrial organizational markets and we start looking at use situations, we might be concerned about applications, the importance of purchase, volume of purchase. And I think, you might look here, for example, at companies that sell large capital goods, I don't know, maybe bridges or something of that nature. So you don't sell very many bridges very often. So, the volume is one, and you are catering for a very, very specific market at that point. If, on the other hand, you are selling bolts and screws to car manufacturers, then the volume is actually very, very high. So you have to have some kind of understanding of the kind of company that you are selling to. If we then look at users' needs and preferences for product characteristics, consumer markets, we might be concerned about product similarities. I can imagine that Coca-Cola, for example, segment their market for Coke and Fanta and Sprite, looking at fairly similar characteristics of the consumers, because really you're just looking as a consumer for something that has a different flavor, aren't you? We might look at price preferences. We might look at brand preferences, desired features. And I think you can see within those the shape of a supermarket like Lidl, for example, which positions itself as a low-price supermarket and attracts customers who have a preference for a bargain. If we look at the industrial organizational markets, then we see performance requirements, assistance from suppliers. And certainly I think that for some industrial companies, it's quite possible to segment markets in terms of the amount of service, for example, that a customer expects to have, or that a particular kind of product requires. So if you look at building a homogeneous strategic business area, SBAs consist of various product market combinations that make sense to the company. These combinations are something that allow you to leverage what the company does well, and they might consist of groups that have similarities, the same clients, applications, competitors, market channels, or they might be built around mutual dependencies concerning price policy, product policy, substitution, etc. Let's have a look at how this might look in practice. Here we have a number of SBAs. You can see one deals with bananas, one with sweet corn, and some with other crops. And essentially, the SBA is a segment of the business environment which is independent as possible from the other SBAs. It's different, it's identifiably different, and it offers distinctive growth and profit prospects because of what it is, because of its inherent capacities. It faces distinctive threats and opportunities. You can imagine that the threats to the banana industry are different to the threats of the corn industry, let's say, and they're identifiable by these externalities that face the SBA. The success of the SBA depends on a distinctive set of success factors that are specific to the SBA and again are different from the other SBAs that are within the reach of the company. So an SBA requires a distinctive success strategy that has certain capabilities and attracts certain investments and resources on the part of the company to make sure that everything that is necessary for the SBA is focused on the specifics that that organization has. And of course, the consequences of the SBA are seen in the way in which we manage the business. So if we have the SBAs, the bananas, the sweet corn, and the crops, then each of those SBAs will be managed by a strategic business unit within the structure of the company. And that strategic business unit then takes care of the specific needs of the strategic business area. Here we have an example of a company that sells 3 types of machine. It sells them in a domestic, foreign, and European market and foreign rest of the world market, in the textile, construction, or metal industries. And we have a series of dots here at the intersections of these different elements that show what the company does essentially, where the current product and market combinations lay. And it might well be for this company that they find that they can group these activities into this range of SBAs from 1 to 8. I don't know on what basis the company's decided to do this, but the SBAs are sufficiently different from each other that this is the way that the company can see the market and understands its own activities best. We might, on the other hand, from an inside-out example, look at a company that has products and services P1 down to S2 in the right-hand column and market segments from A to F across the top. And it has just 2 SBAs. And first SBA is around product 1, which can be seen to be across all the market segments. So it might be, for example, in this example, synthetic cogwheels. Alternatively, we might see a second SBA that focuses on market segment B, but covers within that market segment all the possible products and services that the company has. Again, these are examples that deal with really the way in which the company sees its own activity. We might also want then to split between potential and current needs. So the darker green segment of this diagram shows where the current needs are identified by the company, but then it sees also potential needs out into the future and begins to think about ways in which it might want to develop its business in the future. Importantly, then, the company is looking at these current and potential needs from the perspective of the 3 vectors: the need, benefit, and function, so asking what for, then the customer groups asking for whom, and then in terms of the products, technologies, and methods, asking what and how. And within the dark green square and the light green square, you'll see some examples of these needs along each of these functions. But really, the important thing is the name of the vector, not the title of the example. So summarising, I think, as we've said a few moments ago, segmentation is an art rather than a straightforward deterministic method. And it's really about strategic thinking, beginning with the process of segmentation. What are the strategic business areas that we can see? Why are these important to the company? And then in terms of how do we manage them, where is the growth, what's the attractiveness of the SBAs, what are the opportunities and threats that each brings, and then of course the how do we actually look at this going forward in terms of the inside out method, balancing the existing needs and the new needs of the company and its SBAs.